Hi, it's Diana. Woo, I'm so excited because I am starting a series that combines, where I get to talk about three things that I absolutely love. And those three things are stories, analysis, and food. So at first I thought I was going to jump right in and talk about a specific story with those three words. But then I realized I really is important to define my terms. Very key. I think it's important in just a normal conversation to define terms so that we know what we're talking about. And we're not, we're on the same page. Okay, I made that face because I was going to use a cliche, and I used the cliche anyway. So this is an introduction to that series that each one will talk about a specific story. So today I'm not talking about a specific story. I am talking about the word story, the word analysis, and the word food. So here we go. Story first. So what do I mean when I say the word story? Well, to me it has, if I had to shake it down to its bare minimum, what is the bare minimum something has to have to be called a story? Well, number one, and this is to me, you can go look up, there are all sorts of definitions, which is another reason we have to come to an agreement. It's shared. Stories are shared. That means that there are at least two people in the experience of a story. So I can tell myself stories. I often do out loud, and I can do it in my head. But for this purpose, what I'm talking about now, that does not count as a story. It only counts as a story if there are at least two people involved. Okay, so it's shared. A shared account of characters. That's my second thing. A story has to have characters. It has to have, I'm going to call it them beings that are in the story. Now, these characters a lot of times are people. You can think of probably many stories that have people as characters, but they don't have to be people. Like the story Alice in Wonderland. It has a lot of characters that are animals, like the White Rabbit or the field mouse. I think he's called a field mouse. Okay, let's see, what else? Oh, The Wind in the Willows, almost all animals. The Chronicles of Nornia. I don't have to keep on going. There are a ton of them. Some stories have characters that are plants, like the giving tree. The giving tree, the tree is a character. And there are even stories that have what we consider inanimate objects or things that aren't living as characters. For example, the book The Shining, which it doesn't quite fit into all the other stories that were children's books, but it's the one that comes to my mind. One of the characters in that book is the hotel. Okay, so we have a shared account, at least two people, of characters, and they can be anything, but they characters, and events surrounding those characters. So there has to be something happening to or with or around the characters. If I wrote something down and I wrote about a field mouse and I described the field mouse in great detail, but it didn't do anything and nothing happened to it, that wouldn't be a story. It would just be a description. So something has to happen. Sometimes the characters make it happen. Sometimes something happens to the characters and they have to react. Okay, so let's see. I'm going through my checklist. We talked about characters. We talked about sharing. And let's talk about ways that we can share a story. So stories are shared in many ways. In general, I'm referring to books. That's because mostly that's what I'm going to talk about. But stories can be shared in other ways, like via a movie or a song or a poem or a picture, or I can just tell you with my mouth, verbally, a painting, and just so many. I'm trying to hit every kind of, so I don't leave anybody out. But there are so many ways to share stories. And another thing is, I don't see it in my notes, but I'm going to go to it anyway. Because I'm like, wait, where did I put that? It's okay. Stories can either be what's called fiction, and fiction means that somebody made it up in their imagination. It might have elements that are true. Like, let's say I wrote a story about growing tomatoes. Well, I have grown tomatoes, but that doesn't, just because that part is true, that sometime in my life I've grown tomatoes, it doesn't mean that the rest of the story is true. If I use my imagination and made it up, then that is called fiction. Now, if I write just true stuff, things that happened in the world, not happened in my mind, but happened in the world, then that's called nonfiction. So fiction, nonfiction. Let's see. Oh, and then now we're going to slide on into the word analysis, and we're going to do that because when we are sharing a story with someone, we're going to be the receiving person. So we are listening to a story, we're watching a movie that's telling us a story, or we're reading a story. We have thoughts about those stories and opinions and ideas, and we interpret them, and they might bring up memories. So a lot goes on in our brains when we are sharing a story, or we're getting the story, receiving the story. And when we take those thoughts and we start to apply it to the story and try to figure out how that story works, that's called analysis. So here we are at our second word. I think we're feeling pretty comfortable about our first word, story, and we're into the second word, analysis. And like story, we need a definition. So the way I'm going to define analysis is, it's when we think of how a part of something works within the whole. So how does a part work in the whole? And I'm going to give you some examples. So for example, I might look in the mirror and ask myself, how do these brown socks that I'm wearing, and actually I'm not wearing brown socks right now, I'm not wearing any socks or shoes, but let's say I am. How do these brown socks that I'm wearing work with this green dress and these black shoes? So what I'm asking is, how does this part of an outfit work within the whole? I'm going to analyze. I have a question. The question starts the analysis. So when I answer that question, that is analyzing how they work together. So another example of an analysis could be looking at my lunch, and maybe I'm eating a salad, and then I ask myself, why do these grapes make my salad taste better? Again, a part, because a grape is just a part of the salad. How does that part, or why does that part create this, a better salad? To me, how and why questions are good ways to start an analysis. How does this work with that? How does this make it better? You could also ask how it makes it worse, or how it doesn't work. So how and why are good places to start, but it's important to realize that even if I ask, not all how questions are analysis starting questions. So I could say, how is the main character going to get out of this trouble? Well, that's not an analysis, that's just kind of like a prediction of the end. So it's not the same thing, but we can still start with how and why questions. Okay, now I'm going to step back a minute and acknowledge from my time in the classroom, well, I'm going to acknowledge something about myself first, and that is I love doing analysis. Because I love thinking about stories, and I like trying to figure out how they work. So to me, it's fun. But what I noticed when I was teaching and in a classroom is that not everybody thinks it's fun. Some people think it's scary. Some people think they're not good at it. Some people kind of hate it. So I'm going to acknowledge that that's true. And it can be more enjoyable. I'm not going to say it should be everybody's favorite thing to do, but it can be more enjoyable if we remember that we are an integral part of participating in the sharing of a story. Okay, so it's important to know that, to remember, I have thoughts and ideas and feelings and experiences and a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in my brain when I am in that sharing of a story. And I to answer questions about this story, I don't even have to use the internet. I don't have to. I can use my very smart brain, because my very smart brain is already working. I just got to listen to it. I just got to have faith. I just got to have confidence. And now I'm going to tell you something. And that is that nobody has the right answers about the story. I used to tell this to my student. There is no one golden answer that comes in brought on a pillow and everybody sings, oh, and it glows in its glory. That does not happen, because there's not one, because there's not just one person in this whole thing of storytelling. So each of us has I hate to use the word legitimate, has a valuable, that's much better, has a valuable contribution in an analysis of a story. Now, it is true that we might have to explain what we mean, and that's the analysis part. We can't just, pronounce something. We have to explain it, but so does everybody else. And we have to use the story to help us with our explanation. And we're going to do that. That's what we're gearing up to, but it's not in this video. Okay, I'm like trying to cover everything. Okay, remember that was it. There are no real one only answers. I would say, and people don't agree with me with this, but I would say that even the person who wrote the story, what I mentioned was that kind of like you're kidding me, thought that I don't think that even the person who writes the story has the one real, only, best answer. I think they have an answer because they have an idea, but once they share their story, then they let go of the idea that there's only one answer. There is not only one answer. And us sharing that story and or reading a story, we get to have valuable ideas about the story. Okay, so our final word, now I'm going to go back to this. And one of the things that to me is so important to realize, that comes from realizing that our ideas are just as important and just as valuable, is it's very hard to enjoy a story if we're being told that our ideas are wrong. And so we just become afraid, okay, well, I don't understand your ideas, so I must not be good at this. That upsets me, because I love stories and I want other people to love stories. Okay, so the final word is food. Talk about things I love. I love food. And I might assume that everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say food, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about a definition too, because it's important to just all know that we're talking about the same thing. So to me, food is something that's ingested, like we take it into our body, we eat it or drink it. It's ingested by people or animals. People or other animals, because people are animals, or absorbed, that's a plant absorbing with its roots, absorbed by a plant, so it's something that is ingested or absorbed to get needed nutrition for life, growth, and health. Okay, so I don't think we're going to argue about that or have to explain it too much, but I will say this, that food can be beautiful and yummy, like a intricately decorated birthday cake, or a carefully arranged platter of colorful fruit, but it doesn't have to be. It could be something that is not very interesting or exciting, like a dry, stale cracker. Now I'm feeling sad for crackers, because crackers can be darn good, but when they're stale, they're not so good. Okay, so now we have our three words. We have story, a sharing of events relating to a character. We have analysis, asking how or why a part of something works together with the whole. And food, something that is ingested or absorbed for the nutrition needed for life, growth, and health. Now, I did have a bonus word, and I'm going to talk about it very quickly. I feel like I have to like whisper because it wasn't to me on the same level, but it's a good one to know. And that word is characterize. So if I say, I'm going to characterize Edwin, and let's say Edwin's my friend, I might say something like, Edwin has curly hair. So that is me giving a characteristic of Edwin, and it happens to be a physical one. You can look at Edwin and see that he has curly hair. So to characterize means to point out a feature of someone or something or some place, to point out a feature. And the feature could be something you can see, like I said, Edwin's curly hair. It could be something you can smell, like if I said, oh, I'm not whispering, I got very loud. Or and I know we're going to be able to hear my dishwasher in the back, I just realized that. Okay, we can ignore it. We'll just pretend somebody's washing dishes. Me! Characterized by smell. I can say, honeysuckle smells sweet. So a characteristic of the flower honeysuckle is that it smells sweet. I can also characterize something by how it sounds. Like blue jays sound like they're upset. Actually, I love the way blue jays sound. So that a characteristic of a blue jay is an annoyed call. But it also can be a feature that I can't see or hear or smell, but that I kind of learn based on watching something act or interacting with. So let me do my dog Daisy. So I could say, Daisy hides when she sees other dogs. And that a characteristic of Daisy is that she's afraid of other dogs. I could characterize my other dog, Frills. Say Frills' favorite thing. Oh no, let's see, because that's her. Frills will eat anything that's on the table if you're not watching her. So I can characterize Frills as really loving food, like me. Okay, so that's a bonus word. Where I come from, we call that lanyap. A little lanyap word for you. Lanyap's not about, look, another word, a lanyap. It means a little something extra. So it wasn't what I was planning to talk to, but you got it. All right, so this is so exciting because now this is done. We can get to talking about actual stories and actual food. Bye.